Arsenal have just escaped Germany with a draw. This game against Leverkusen could have gone really wrong for them, and if not for the last minute penalty that they got, they would have actually gone into the game against them at the Emirates next week with a goal behind. Like, I can't even believe how well Leverkusen were in this game. I also think that Arsenal were not very great, but ultimately, this is the first game that Arsenal have not won in this whole Champions League campaign. Speaks a lot about how good they've been, but also when you look at it in terms of the grand scheme of things, going into the Emirates and not losing is a very important thing because they have the momentum now and they can play in front of their crowd and try and get the job done. But you have to say well done to Leverkusen for how well they played, but just a bit of a lapse of concentration did not help them in this situation. But ultimately, good result for Arsenal. Maybe not the result they would have wanted, but also Leverkusen, not the best result because they basically handed the game to Arsenal. But let's talk about how this game went in general. I think Robert Andrich, the guy who actually scored the goal, he was walking a tightrope because he got a very early yellow card, and literally like minutes later, literally like all this happened between in the first few minutes, the first 5 minutes actually, because he made a foul, he got a yellow card, very early yellow card, and then in the next phase of play, he got another foul, and I think that was even a blatant yellow card as well. So he probably got his last warning in the 5th minute of the game, which is crazy to say when you think about it. But, at the end of the day, he stayed on the pitch and he got the goal. But ultimately, the game looked really tight. I thought it was a very tactical game from both teams. I think it was just down to whoever was going to make a mistake or whoever had a moment of brilliance. And I think Leverkusen were okay sitting back, but they were also okay going forward and attacking, and they looked like they could actually cause Arsenal some problems. But in the first half, I think everything was just very tactical. Everybody was trying to be safe. Nobody wanted to make mistakes from both teams. I think the closest chance we really had in this first half was from Arsenal, where Martinelli struck the post. I think it was a really well built up play. The passes were really good till they got to Martinelli, who gave a very good shot with his left foot and he hit the bar, and I think that was as close as it came for Arsenal before the first half ended. So it was a really okay half, not the most entertaining first half from both teams. But in the second half, I think this was just the craziest thing because Leverkusen started on like fire. They just gave the passes immediately from the beginning of the play. Once the referee blew for the second half to start, they passed and kept on passing, and they got everything really well, and they got a header which Raya had to save. And I kid you not, Raya's save was the only touch that an Arsenal player got from the beginning of the first half till when Bayer Leverkusen scored. Now, to be fair, they did this all in 1 minute. So, I'm not trying to say that Arsenal were not good, but I think it was just a big lapse in concentration from the Arsenal players in terms of how they conceded this goal, because Leverkusen knew that they wanted to get a very quick start to the second half, and that's what they did. Really, really good start for them, and then they got a corner from that. And you will not believe it. The kings of corners conceded from a corner, and it was not like it was one of the craziest goals. I just think it was just a clear lapse in concentration. I think they were just not looking at what they needed to look at. Andrich was completely free and he got a header, and I just think that in general, when you look at how Arsenal defended that corner, it is so unlike them. This is a team that are corner specialists in terms of scoring and also defending them. So it was really shocking to see how they did not even defend it. I was going to say how they defended the corner, but it was a lack thereof. They didn't defend the corner. So it was a good one for Leverkusen, and from then on, it just looked like, okay, this was going to be tough for them. And for the rest of the half, Arsenal had chances, but they were just not up to speed today. I don't think that they were bad, but they were just not up to their normal speed today. Like, they were okay, but they could have been better. We've seen better from Arsenal. And funny enough, this was the first time in the whole Champions League this season. This is just their 9th game. Not just, but, it's their 9th game. And this was the first game where Arsenal conceded first. So it was a bit of a, system shocker for them in terms of how this went. So from this point, I think Arsenal were really trying to get something into the game, and they were just not very clinical. They got some chances here and there, but nothing really of substance until Mikel Arteta made a very important substitution. And I think when I saw the substitution, I was like, whoa, Saka going off in the 60th minute. That's a big choice. That is an interesting choice. But one thing I will say about Saka and Madueke on the right wing is that Saka I think he's a better winger. I think he's more, the assured player. He's the one you want to start in any game, even in a final or anything. As long as both of them are available, you'll probably want to start Saka. However, I think Madueke is a lot more explosive. When he comes on, you can see the speed at which he's taking on his marker, and he runs really quickly, makes a lot of decisions quickly. You know, his movement on the ball is really good. He's more explosive. He's more dynamic. No, maybe not dynamic, but he's more explosive and he's quicker on the ball and making decisions faster. And ultimately, I think that's what ended up helping Arsenal win this game, because when you look at how he won the penalty in the 90th minute or close to the 90th minute, you know, he was just making a good run, and it was just a really poor tackle from Malik Tillman. Really, really poor tackle in my opinion. Like, mistimed, not very smart, and I think it was just also a lack of concentration or loss of concentration. And I think basically when you look at how this game went for both teams, the goals they conceded were just from lapses in concentration. They were just not, you know, doing the right things at the right time. But to me, this game was tight, very tactical, and it looked like it was just going to be a moment of brilliance or a mistake from either team that was going to get the other team to score a goal. And that's what happened in this one, because Tillman's tackle was just poor, really poor. And you will not believe who stepped up. Kai Havertz. Literally like their boyhood savior or their boyhood boy, you know, their club product coming from the academy from just the age of 11 was the one who gave the dagger to them. He scored against his former team Leverkusen and gave Arsenal a good result, getting it to 1-1. And ultimately, when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, I think this is a good result for Arsenal in terms of how bad it could have been. I think Arsenal would have wanted to get maybe a 2-0 win in this one, but it never really looked like they were the better team in this game. I don't think any team was particularly amazing, but ultimately, when you look at how this game went, I think it was a decent result for both teams. I think Leverkusen would have loved to get a win in this one, but they just didn't do enough, and that mistake at the back from Tillman ultimately was what cost them this game. But when you look at it, I think for Arsenal, they would not think this is a bad result. You know, they're going into the next game knowing that they're going to play in front of their own crowd. There's going to be a lot of, you know, motivation for them to get a win in this one. And I think Leverkusen also did well in terms of their own tactics today, in terms of how the crowd helped them and pushed them on to get a goal in this one and actually defend till the end of it. But when you sit down and think about it, like I said, it was just a really poor decision from Tillman that handed the game back into Arsenal's hands, because I always felt like Arsenal were going to win this tie. Maybe I thought they were going to win this game, this particular first leg, but going into the second leg not behind is a good thing, because it could have been a completely different game going into the Emirates, because Leverkusen may just have to sit back, and truly, when you think about it, they defended really well. There were not a lot of great chances for Arsenal, apart from the one where they shot it and hit the bar, and then one chance from Timber, which went over. So I don't think there were a lot of great chances for Arsenal in this one. So I think Leverkusen are actually a decent side, and they don't lose a lot of games at home in the Champions League or in any European game. So I think it was a good job for Arsenal to get a result in this one and not lose. But like I said, job done for now. They didn't lose, so they go to the Emirates, and it's going to be a very, very big game. And I think the crowd is going to be really on their toes to help Arsenal to push through and get this result over the line. Obviously, they're playing either Bodo Glimt or Sporting, so I don't think it's necessarily the craziest fixture or one of the hardest fixtures. But now you're starting to see that when it comes to knockout football, anybody can really put a proper fight against you. So I don't think Arsenal will underestimate any team again. It's not over. I mean, at the end of the day, Leverkusen could still win this tie. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Arsenal are too strong for them. But we saw today that things can go the other way. And if Arsenal are not at their best like they usually are, and they were not in this game, it could be a big problem for them. So when I look at this one, I think Arsenal should still be able to get it through. Arsenal should still be able to get a result. But when you look at it, it was not the greatest game, but it's not a bad result for Arsenal. But that's it for this one. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm going to watch City against Real Madrid, and I'm also going to be keeping my eyes on PSG and Chelsea, so I'll bring that content for you after this one. But before you go, make sure you like, share with a friend, and subscribe. And before you leave, also leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this game. Let me know what you think about Arsenal. Let me know what you think about Leverkusen and how well they played in this game. But before you leave, make sure you watch one of these videos. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. We're on the road to 300 subscribers, and I would love for you to be one of those people who could get me there. So I'll see you guys there. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys soon. Cheers.